Ladies and gentlemen, from Ridgeway County, the greatest county on Roblox, you're watching The Ridge, starring ShadowCulture. Hey everybody, and welcome to the first ever live viewing of The Ridge. I'm your host, ShadowCulture, talking to you from the great city of Milton. Believe it or not, we are in Milton. Don't tell Square, but we may have slipped Paul a few dollars in game from an early release. A little bit about myself for those aren't familiar. I'm Sheriff ShadowCulture of the Ridgeway County Sheriff's Office. I also hold a position within the Law Enforcement Training Center as the Assistant Director. Anyways, today we have an interesting show ahead of us featuring two special guests, TomDonovanSmith as well as the County Executive, Matrix OC. Beyond that, we also have a last minute interview with District Attorney Siteowner. Let me grab a seat, folks, and we'll start right off. All right, we're going to start off with some juicy gossips off the street of Widgery. So, starting off with the former clerk, now the dealer Trinlove, who was caught in 4K Ultra HD dealing large amount of police issued equipment. Trinlove was identified as a potential suspect based off of the evidence provided via an anonymous tip line. I think it is a crazy thing to happen. You know, the county clerk is given a lot of power through the Ridgeway County statutes, a lot of trust, a lot of respect, and it is an interesting thing to happen. You know, we have, um, I would say right under the executive is the clerk. You know, they're tasked with the record keeping, tasked with the publishing of all Ridgeway County government, releases and whatnot, and to have someone at that level do something as detrimental to our game is that it's going to bring about a lot of changes to our government. So it's definitely going to be something interesting for our county executive moving forward. You know how they pick that kind of person. You know the screening process and whatnot. I think we'll see some neat things come out of that. Um, and another person who has made the 6 o'clock news is the Ridgeway Park Service. You know, they went on a full-on free-for-all match against PPD and some civilians who were caught in the crossfire. You know, sadly, PPD didn't win this war as they were spawn killed in their own armory. I think this is incredibly interesting. Never before in Ridgeway have we seen something at this level. This kind of ties back into some of the stuff we've seen in Noosa. It's going to be a huge hurdle for our government to jump over. We want to retain as much realism as possible, but then we have something like this occur. We'll talk with some of our county government members on how they plan to bounce back from something like this. But no doubt it's going to be difficult. So you know, it's all about how we move forward from this, how we recover, and there's going to be a lot of pieces to pick up. So we'll see through our interview with Matrix and the district attorney side owner on how our government plans to move forward and correct the wrongs that have been done. Anyways, that was all the news we have for you guys this week. And after this short break, we'll be welcoming our first guest of the night, Tom Donovan Smith on the Ridge. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Please join me in welcoming Tom Donovan Smith to the stage.
Can't touch this.
Come have a
Thank
seat.
you.
Touch
Hello.
this.
Yeah, good to see you, man.
Can't touch this.
All right, so welcome to the Ridge. How's everything going?
Yeah, it's been an interesting day to say the least. It's good to be
Yeah,
here though. I'm super excited.
I'd say so. So yeah, I know there's a lot of drama surrounding you and the whole RPS incident, and we're gonna sit here and try and squash some of the stuff out and hear your side of the story.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot to go through.
So, I have a few questions prepared for you, and we might even come up with some more on the spot. But one of my first ones was what was the intent behind the event? Like, what were you trying to do?
All right, so and see, I had no idea of what's now been named as the Independence event, but I had no idea any of this was going to happen or that it had happened until I had woke up about an hour afterwards. The entire plan was to hold a parade between the sheriff's office, the Palmer Police Department, and the Park Service. That was the entire
Yeah.
plan, but then kind of rippled into what became the Independence Day event and the mass shooting at the PPD headquarters, and so I woke up to the news that that had all happened.
So you didn't intend on having any of the, the free for all stuff kind of go on.
Oh gosh, no, no. I had no idea that it was happening, or even that I had the idea from what developer oversight had said in the Ridgeway General chat in my head. I had the idea that it was going to happen and that developer oversight was planning, but I had no idea that the Park Service was going to initiate the event and the invasion, or as Yomo put it, or what had happened. I had no idea that any of that was going to happen, especially unauthorized.
So you had mentioned that, like, the DO part. What was said with DO that kind of spearheaded this event?
So about 5 days before the event took place, I posted in the government updates channel that I have access to. I posted that something was being planned between the department heads, and then I think it was about a day later that David had mentioned me in the
Yeah.
Ridgeway General chat room, and he said, you know, what are you doing? We're planning an event for this time, and then obviously he jumped into DMs. But in the Ridgeway General chat room, he had said that developer oversight was planning a free for all event with fireworks and something like that along the lines of that evening.
But that never came to fruition, any of the fireworks or anything?
No, I just presumed that maybe developer oversight had seen what happened with parks and the rest of it kind of got canned.
Well, I'm sure, yeah. I mean, I know with, like, our CSO, we canned a lot of the 4th of July stuff that was planned after that. It was
It
kind
was
of
a
a
bit of a bummer.
buzzkill.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
excited to wear my patriotic gear.
Yeah, it kinda ruined some of that. Well, I mean, has anything like this happened before? Have we planned any countywide events like that?
Um, I mean, this I suppose the parade would have been the first real like county-wide, department-wide event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would have been the first, but I suppose never got to happen in the end.
I mean, it's a shame too. It would have been a lot of fun, had everything gone out the way it was planned. The fireworks, the parade, and then the fireworks. That would have been really cool
Yeah,
to actually have the DO backing for an event like that. It's harmless, it doesn't bother anybody, and a lot
yeah.
of the
It
fireworks are
would have
already
been an amazing
pre-programmed.
event. Yeah, yeah, it would have been an amazing event, and it's a shame that it didn't happen. But I suppose I kind of have to focus on what has happened and what's happening now, and just putting my mind to how we're gonna sort this out.
But yeah, what's happened has definitely happened. And it really is a shame that it did happen. I think it kind of ruined a lot of our chances of getting DO support for other events that we have planned. It sucked is what it is. It was an embarrassment
Yeah,
to the
I mean,
government, and
yeah, I suppose at the end of the day, at least people can say that the first Ridgeway birthday celebration, it will be remembered. I suppose that's what people
yeah,
can say.
no doubt, no doubt. It led to a lot of memes, led to a lot of, talk and chatter, and definitely a lot of people interested in what's going on with the government and our state investigations. It's definitely brought a lot of light to, how we conduct our investigations and what happens following some crazy event like that.
Yeah, I suppose it also kind of it makes us think, for the position that those park rangers were in, just thinking a little bit more about the orders that we're given in our departments and, the morality behind them, really
Exactly.
questioning ourselves if we're comfortable with following such orders.
Yeah, and I had made an announcement with our CSO about that actually, and I'm sure you remember that as well, seeing that announcement.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just, to follow someone blindly is incredibly ignorant. We may be in a leadership position, but there's never a wrong time to second guess and do your side questioning, like, is this really smart to do? Have they planned this through thoroughly? And we're on a Roblox game. It's not like this is real life where we're sitting there in the moment. It's so easy to come up with some BS excuse like, "Oh,
Yeah,
let me hop offline. My mom is calling me."
yeah,
Rather than sitting
yeah.
there and seeing some event like that through as a subordinate. I think this definitely brought a lot of chances to learn and to grow from this kind
It's
of event.
raising good questions. I definitely think it's raising good questions. I mean, I was absolutely gobsmacked. You know, it was the one day that I could sleep in because I didn't have to drop my friend off at school. So I woke up
Yeah,
at about 9:30, and I was like, oh, that was a really good sleep. And I plugged my computer in and I jumped on, and instantly I'd seen the chat room was flooded and my DMs were, there was board talking and stuff like that. And as I was reading and I was seeing the photos and what had transpired, I just went, oh my God, I was so surprised by it.
this has probably been one of the biggest events that Ridgeway has seen, bar none. I can't really think of anything that has superseded this event in seriousness, public attention. I mean, we had that whole radio dealing incident, but I would venture to say that this was even larger than that.
Well, any event that can draw 200 people to a press conference and to stay at
Yeah,
a press conference for an hour and a half, and then obviously I ventured off into a channel and I spoke with we had a full channel, about 50 people watching my live stream, and it's just crazy the amount of attention that this has brought to light.
exactly. Well, and that kind of brings up my next question. You had mentioned some stuff about, you planning the event and then Yomo kind of taking it on and, you know, jogging with it. What, in your opinion, led to that miscommunication between you and Dio and Yomo? How did that come to light?
I suppose we have to be really clear that the event that we were planning was a parade. That was the event. The event that took place was nothing that we had wanted, hoped for, or were expecting. I
Well, you
mean,
you had mentioned the FFA and I'd seen that in some places. What was the plan behind the FFA?
so basically, as I said earlier, developer oversight, specifically David or Dev Grail, had mentioned in the Ridgeway General chat room that my event that we were planning, or the event that we were planning, the parade, might be interrupting the time that he decided to do whatever he was planning. And so when talking about that, we started talking about what times would work and stuff like that. And then that's when it got mentioned that there was, Dio was planning the fireworks and the FFA. And then so that's when that was mentioned. And that was the only time that that had been mentioned. And then, after talking about the parade for a little bit and the times and stuff like that, that's when I had jumped off. And then to wake up and see that Yamo had talked about, when's the invasion going to start? Do we have permission? She was asking me, and obviously I wasn't online. She asked Site, he didn't reply to her, and then she just said, "Fuck it, we're gonna do it," and then it kind of took off from there.
So, this was all investigated primarily by RSP's State Investigations Office. A lot of people involved, regardless of their level of involvement, were investigated. Do you feel that this was conducted thoroughly and that all information was brought forward?
When you ask me that question, I suppose I have a different view on it than a lot of other people do, because at the end of the day, I'm kind of the I'm the one at the top of the spear. My head's at the top of the spear with, the 20 counts of murder that I've been charged with, the obstruction of
That's right.
justice, and
Yeah.
the conspiracy charge. So, I mean, in my view, I feel like they've viewed the facts and they've viewed my statements, and then they've kind of decided their own truth to it. And so, that's kind of why I've come on to here today, so that I can make sure that people know, what actually happened, and to get all the facts out there, nothing left out.
Well, so do you think that they've done a good job of collecting all that evidence and I mean, you saw the report that they had just released. Was that conclusive? Did they show everything that was involved?
I mean, well, a lot of the report is redacted, and
Yeah,
while I do know what a lot of the redacted report does contain, I'm not 100% sure how much I can go into detail on it. But I mean, don't get me wrong. I think we have an amazing state investigations team. I think they're an amazing team. But I think um, I don't want to say they've dropped the ball, but I do think that there's been maybe some missteps on the process, and I mean, we'll just have to see where it goes. I suppose it's very early days.
I mean, I understand that. This is really the first test of the SIO. This is pretty much their biggest case. This is the first one that they've come public with.
Yeah,
So I think it is important to note that a lot of them do have experience through RCSO and PPD, but this is their first test as troopers. Investigative troopers. I think they've done a pretty
very
good
public
job. It
test.
was a yeah, it was a good report. I think. It is going to be interesting to see how they move forward from this.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that they've misunderstood some of the stuff that's been said, and they're misunderstanding some of the information that they've received. I think that's what it falls down to, not any sort of negligence or bias or anything like that, like some people have been suggesting. But I think it just falls down to, there is a lot to this story. There is a lot of facts, there's a lot of evidence, and there's a lot to put together. And I don't think they've 100% put that, they haven't got that last puzzle piece in there just yet.
You think that's going to eventually fall into place, or are they going to leave that out?
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a public servant and I'm all for the truth. So, whatever the result of their report and what they deem to be the truth, I'm just gonna make sure that everything's out there, nothing left out.
Yeah,
As I said earlier in the live stream that I was in, and where I was talking about the case and stuff like that, there's nothing that I'm not willing to show, nothing I'm not willing to contribute to or provide. So, at the end of the day, I think all the evidence will come to light, and perhaps some of those charges will be made right.
I hear you. Well, I had heard from some people that have contributed to RNN and the Ridge more specifically. They had said that you were unwilling to comply with the investigation and provide full evidence. Is there any reason why that might be a claim that has been laid?
Okay, so there was quite a dispute over what had happened. So originally, taking it back to the date of the Independence Day event, I
July
woke up.
4th, right?
Yeah, so July 4th, I wake up my time. It's July 5th for me because I'm about 18 hours ahead. I wake up, it's about 9:30 in the morning. I've seen what's happened. And so immediately I'm like, well, we've got this group chat here where I see that they've been talking about it, and she's talked about the invasion and stuff like that. And I go,
Yeah.
I need to get this to the appropriate people. So I jump into a voice call with Matrix and the Deputy District Attorney, and we start talking about it. And
Who was the deputy
so
district attorney?
that's Cons Man. So that's Cons
Okay.
Man. And so immediately I go, hypothetically, there's this group chat, and they've been talking about it while I was asleep, and I want to make sure you guys have got everything. And Conj Man oh yeah, and so I sent him a couple pictures of what the group chat contains, and there comes to Tom. So this is Conj Man talking. He goes, Tom, as long as you help us out and you cooperate, I'll come out okay. And I go, well, that's good because, to me, I haven't done anything wrong. I know I'm innocent. So I just want to make sure that, the district attorney's office can get everything sorted and they get everything that they need. And so, we kind of come up with, as long as I provide it, I'll be on the clear. So same
Yeah.
with the park rangers that were involved in the massacre. They've provided evidence and they'll just get slapped with a fine. And so that's what's going to happen to a lot of them. And so just before I'm about to provide access to the group chat, I just go, I'd like what you've said to be in writing because, that seems like a reasonable thing that any sort of deals and, talks and stuff like that needs to be put in writing for safety reasons, obviously from my end. And that was a massive issue for the district's attorney's office, especially for Conjman and site. As soon as I said that, it went from me being a cooperating witness to, if you don't provide it right now, we're not going to put it in writing, but if you don't provide it right now, we're going to slap you with an obstruction of justice charge and tampering with evidence. They go, we want it by 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I was like, and so we got into this massive dispute. And then that's, there's talks about court orders and stuff like that. That's because I said to the district attorney, I said, look, if you want it and you're going to play it like this, then you can go get a court order. And so, a dispute carries on and, there's a lot of talks and stuff like that. And in the end, I just go, look, all I want to do is help. I'm going to hand it over. So at about 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, I give access to state investigations. I give them access to the group chat and everything that's in it, and I hand that over to them. And and that's me thinking, oh sweet, that's kind of my involvement with all of this done. I'll be left out of it.
Well, yeah,
You know,
you got that obstruction of justice charge, didn't you? Like one charge of
yeah, yeah.
OJ.
So that's what that in my mind that just reaffirms as to why I needed it in writing and why I don't feel bad about the delay of giving it over because you know, they said that if I handed it over, no obstruction of justice and stuff like that, and I comply with them completely, and then at the end of the day, they've changed their minds and they've slapped that on top, And I mean, at the end of the day, obstruction of justice versus 20 murder charges, I mean, it's not as big of a deal, but it kind of just reaffirms the fact that, unless they put something in writing, you've just got to be really careful when dealing with them because they're not as straightforward as they'd make you believe.
I hear that. That is interesting. So I mean, you did comply with the investigations from your
Yeah,
perspective, right?
absolutely. And so I did that, and Siteowner, he said to me, he said, you've handed it over, you won't be slapped with obstruction of justice, and I was like, that sounds fair enough. I do, and I posted in the board group chat that we have, I tagged everyone, and I said, look, I'm sorry for being a little bit iffy about handing over. There was a bit of a dispute, but we're all sorted now, and I do apologize for anything like that. And then, next thing you know, I've been slapped with obstruction of justice. And here's the thing, because I was cooperating fully. I mean, aside from just the delay in handing over that chat, as soon as I was contacted by state investigations, they asked me, would you be willing to do an interview? And I sat through about an hour and a half of answering questions and, leaving nothing out. And then turns out, when they told me that they were looking for a fall guy, it turns out that I'm that fall guy.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Well,
it's tough. It's tough for me because I've been in Ridgeway since its birth. I was waiting for it in Noosa just like everyone else, and I've built my career, my Let's certification. I've been in the sheriff's office for about 8 months and a serving member of the board. Spending countless hours writing legislation and just trying to be as helpful as I can, and then to see all of that be put at risk because if I'm found guilty, I lose my Let's certification, my employment within the sheriff's office where I'm currently on administrative leave, my park service employment, and my board seat. So, for me, everything's on the line at the moment, and so I just want to be as open as I can and leave nothing out because at the end of the day, it's my life on the line. It's my career.
I hear you. There's definitely a lot on stake right now. But with that, I think we've about answered every question we have for you. So I'd like to thank you for coming on the show. And right after this short break, we will have the county executive Matrix OC to hear what he has to say surrounding some of these things that have been going on in the county. So I ask everybody watching to stay tuned, and we'll be right back with you.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you gonna do when Chevy John Brown come for you? Tell me what you wanna do, what you gonna do? Yeah, bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? You chuck it on that one, you chuck it on this one, you chuck it on your mother and you chuck it on your father, you chuck it on your brother and you chuck it on your sister, you chuck it on that one and you chuck it on me. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, bad boys.
there, everyone. Welcome back. And for our second guest of the night, we have the County Executive, Matrix OC. Hey there, Matrix.
What's
How
going
are
on?
you today?
I'm great. Yourself?
All right, I'm good, thank you. Go ahead and have a seat for me. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Ridgeway has had some pretty interesting events throughout the week. We've had a dealer to a full-out Call of Duty Warzone event in the streets of Palmer, with the Ridgeway Park Service battling the Palmer Police Department. And I want to get to hear what you have to say.
So, are you asking for a comment on
Yeah, I mean, like,
the
how do
event?
you feel about anything that's going on? What's your opinion? Outside of all of the county executive, government BS. I mean, what do you, as a person, feel about what happened?
I mean, the current events are pretty peculiar. Right now, I haven't released an official statement on all of the unfolding events that took place, but most recently, well, not most recently, but the last official statement I made in regards to this was the Park Service, and before that was the termination of County Clerk Trenlove from his
Yeah,
position. Uh, my thoughts on that, that
I mean,
specifically,
let me preface all this by saying this is completely disregarding any ties to the government. Both you and me hold a position within the government as the county executive and the sheriff. But this is completely personal, man to man. We're just talking here. How do you feel about all of that? Hello? Are you there?
all right, there we go. All right. So, what was up?
Well, so I just wanted to make this clear, this is separate from any kind of government stuff. This is just person to person talking. How do you feel about everything that went down within the county in the past week? Specifically July 4th. That was the quote unquote Independence Day event. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I mean, it's quite hard differentiating myself from the rest of the government, given the fact that regardless of where I am, as long as I'm doing something Ridgeway related, I still am the county executive,
Yeah.
and I have to treat things as such. So my opinion still is aligned with the government and that of my own opinion as well. As for the unfolding events of July 4th, I think it was a large case of misunderstanding. I believe that there was a lot of carelessness, recklessness, and just overall disregard for the situation. And I believe that the people involved could have taken further measures to prevent uh, the quote unquote independence event from taking place,
Yeah.
specifically without a developer oversight giving the go ahead
Well,
or
so I'm
any
sure.
prior notice.
Yeah. Well, in your position, you are the figurehead of the Ridgeway County government. So I'm sure it was a lot to find out. Like you get flooded with all of these DMs about the event unfolding. What was your first thought when you heard about the event?
Well, definitely, definitely. My first thoughts I have to say was I did believe it. I believe that there was a developer oversight approved event going on in game because I mean, why else would RPS be shooting PPD? Um,
Yeah.
but when I spoke to David, for those who don't know David, Dev Gralius, he confirmed with me that he did not authorize this event and that this was happening on the accord of specific people and that ranges from members of the government.
So
I'm
you
not
say
gonna get
specific
specific.
people. I mean, like, who do you mean by specific people? That's pretty vague and broad.
I don't want to single anybody out. I don't want to call anybody out, but people within the government, who uh, were orchestrating this event or
Yeah.
were there while it was ongoing. And overall, I just believe that it was very careless of given individuals. When I found out, like I said, I did believe it was a Delve Oversight event, but once I found out it wasn't, quite upset. Uh, had a talk with Havoc Download from the moderation team, uh, developer oversight, and of course the given department heads that were involved with the situation. So yeah.
So you said that the first person you talked to, all right, so you found out about it. How did you find out about this event? Who's the person that brought this to your attention, or in what manner or fashion did you find out?
Well, I was just getting on Discord. I was finishing up some lunch, and I was DM'd a couple times by a bunch of different people. Two different people from the moderation team, others being civilians. The thing that's quite upsetting about like all of it is the fact that it was done on a full server with over 25 civilians online, which is kind of
That's
where
a
I
lot.
where the recklessness comes in and the carelessness, all of the above. But yes, I found out through DMs. You snorting coke, big man?
Uh, who did you find out from? Private civilians or from, members of the government, or was it from moderation team?
Oh yeah, I specified that in the beginning. I said it was two members of moderation and the rest being civilians.
Okay. Um, so there's a lot of people that were involved in this situation. It wasn't just department heads. It was, a lot of people that played an impact and played a role in what we saw unfold on July 4th. Do you feel as though justice will be served to the fullest extent to everybody that's involved?
Uh, this gets into personal belief, but I mean, why not? So, me personally, I don't believe that the park rangers should be held uh to a certain extent. So by that, I mean I agree with the district attorney in deciding not to pursue charges against the members of the park service, specifically the rangers who were under the instruction of their superintendent. At the time, the rangers believed that one, it was a developer oversight approved event, and they were also acting at the leisure of their the commander, their superintendent Yomo. Therefore, all of their actions that were committed were under the impression that it was a developer oversight event and that they were under acting orders from their superintendent. So I do agree with them taking maybe some accountability, but uh, I definitely don't agree with if they were to be charged, which is why I'm glad that the district attorney took the measures that he needed to make sure that they were just giving small fines for certain things.
Well, yeah, our
As
site owner, our district attorney site owner had mentioned that, some of the individuals within Park Service would be given a fine, correct?
yes,
So we're still holding, of course, we have some of the figureheads of the event that are getting held responsible, and that was released in the SIO, debrief. But we're also seeing some of the Park Service guys get held accountable through fines and certain other measures that the DA's office is using, right?
correct.
Okay, so we're still holding the Park Service accountable regardless of their level of impact in the event, right?
Yes, but it was definitely not to the extent at which others are being held accountable.
Of course, yeah. Well, so that brings into question, of course, as the county executive, you are the figurehead of the entire county. You run pretty much everything within our county government and, the events following. So, how could this have been prevented, from your level?
Well, I think it was communication. It has a lot to do with communication. The communication between a department head and that of their superior. And same thing goes for any department and its subordinates and superiors. It's important to have that relationship that you can and need to speak to your superiors in certain situations.
So,
Especially in
as a
something like this. This could have been a fun live fire event, but instead of it being a fun live fire event, because I was not contacted, alerted, or anything of the sort, it was turned into something that was blown uh way out of proportion and something that it really should not have turned into. So yeah.
Yeah. So you think, better communication between the department head responsible, Yomo, and yourself, we could have, forgone all of these charges and stuff like that had a live fire event been approved?
Oh yeah, definitely. For the 4th of July, something fun for not only the Rangers but officers, guardsmen. Something
Yeah.
fun to get them all out. Have some fun on the 4th of July. A lot of them are outside, with family. Some spent the day inside, doing their little own thing, which is why a fun little, live fire would have been would have been enjoyable. But
So for the people that aren't aware of what a live fire is, can you kind of explain, how that first off, how a live fire is approved and then what that authorizes exactly? Like what is a live fire and what does it give permissions to do?
Well, live fires are pretty much a period in time, designated periods of time where somebody can call start X and end X. Start X would basically mean from that point to the like to until the end X point, which would be the end. People are allowed to by people. I specifically mean law enforcement, uh, and that includes Park Service, RNG, RCSO, PPD. But point being, they're allowed to destroy department equipment for the people that are participating. They're allowed to kill each other. They're allowed to break the speed limit. They don't have to follow traffic laws. It's basically a period. Live fire training is usually used for more serious things, such as department training, combat things. A lot of tactical units within Ridgeway are the
Yeah.
ones that kind of rely on live fires. So, but yeah,
Well, yeah, I
more
know
serious.
we had just seen a live fire event for SRT, the Special Response Team within RCSO. I think they had used a live fire event for their academy training, right?
Correct.
And so what that allows is for the SRT team basically to kind of bypass some of the laws that we use so that they can actually get in game on Ridgeway County and practice some of the stuff that they need to practice without having to worry about, some of these minute and somewhat small laws, right?
Yes, correct.
So they can,
Some
go ahead.
Yeah, the point of a live fire is just for usually used for practice. Seldomly used for some fun events every now and then. Like I said, July 4th would have been a good day for that, but fortunately that wasn't an option. But yeah, usually used for training in circumstances that uh that are alike to the map. So
Yeah, I hear that. Well, so you had appointed, so Tom held the position of executive pro tempore, which is basically the next in line for county executive. Should you step down, take a leave of absence, anything like that, Tom would have taken your place as executive pro tempore. And you
well,
also appointed Yomo as the superintendent of parks. Um, how do you feel about that decision now?
that's the thing. A lot of people seem to get confused with the EPT position because of the name of the position.
Yeah,
If I were to leave, if I were to ever have an absence, disability, something is wrong with me, I can't come in game for X amount of time, uh, I appoint I've already appointed. So this is kind of like not exactly secretive, but I don't have to say. It's just an official, uh, not letter, but official. Something official. I say to the county clerk, and that department head is to take over as county executive if I'm ever out,
department head, like
suspended.
a
Yep.
department head instead of the EPT.
As said in the charter, if I ever, for whatever reason, get recalled, get a suspension, if I'm out, unable to make it, if I'm sick, then yes, a department head. I have to choose a department head to
Okay.
take over as county executive. But yes, in the case that I'm gone in the short term, then Tom will take my position in presiding over sessions. Specifically, the EPT does not have any executive authority. He's a member of the legislature. At the end of the day, Tom is still a boardsman. And yes, if I'm gone, he will preside over sessions. If I'm gone for a very, very long period of time, then the person who is there in the moment of my absence or disability, who I've put in as a department, sorry, not put in, but spoke to the county clerk about in terms of being there in my absence, that department head will take over.
Okay, well, let's get back to the question that was asked. You like I said, you had appointed both Tom and Yomo to their respective positions. EPT and parks superintendent. Do you second guess any of those decisions? How do you feel about putting them both in those positions that they have gotten?
Uh, a board member brought this up to me earlier today. Actually, I want to say I don't regret any of my nominations. My nominations, yes, they were made by me, but they were also passed through the board, and I'm not the only line of defense. When I nominate somebody, so those people are put through another vetting process, and they have to be passed by the county board.
Yeah.
So just as much as I'm responsible for any person that I've nominated, same thing goes for the board, and that's something that was pointed out to me by a board member today. In terms of regret, like I said, no, I don't regret any of my appointments. Yoma has done beautiful things with the park service, without a doubt. She's led them to a lot of victories, and by victories I mean small victories within the department itself, milestones. I don't know what happened this week. I really don't. But yeah, Yomo's totally capable of being a good department head. It's just that I don't know if she can bounce back from something like this.
Yeah, this week has definitely been a lapse of judgment. I think, everybody involved is more than capable of making smart decisions, but we've seen a time where people have forgone critical thinking, common sense, and they've, thrown all caution to the wind basically. And, we're dealing with the repercussions now. People aren't going to just get absolved of all guilt just because, it was the 4th of July, we wanted to have fun, whatever. We're going to have to see repercussions from that. And I think it's important that we do see repercussions from that as Ridgeway. Um, but we'll likely have to see new appointments because of this event, the Independence event. How do you plan on appointing new individuals moving forward so that we don't see events like this?
Personally, won't be making a comment as a for appointments. I will be making an official statement either tomorrow, well, technically today, 7/7/2021. My statement will come out and it will be released. It will detail my thoughts. Uh, and the
Personal
stance.
thoughts or thoughts as a government official?
Well, I mean, an official release will come from my official capacity as the county
Okay.
executive. So, in that letter, you'll see my thoughts, on the situation, uh, what happened going forward, and how we're gonna move on from this.
Well, I mean, so for the sake of this broadcast, how do you plan on appointing new individuals moving forward? Well, like, what is the vetting process? How do you pick your people? I mean, obviously, that RPS is a huge entity. Same thing for the Palmer Police Department. Same thing for RNG. You run all of these departments. How do you pick the department heads? It's no easy task. There's a lot of people to choose from, and there's a lot at stake.
As for the question of how do I choose department heads, it varies depending on position. For example, for judicial, I usually do some interest forms. Usually do like a little vetting process. Look at scores. Look at writing. All different aspects of certain things. Also get a little advice from you know uh, my senior advisors, counselors, chief counselors, things like that in terms of judicial nominations. As for department heads, that's a little bit different. Department heads, it's something that it really I would really hate to appoint anybody outside of the department to lead that
Of
department.
course.
So, give me for example, Lewis Med, Lewis Med. He was in the department, and by the way, in the department, I mean PPD. He was in the PPD since the start. And he was my nomination after Forehead resigned. Lewis has done so many great things with the PPD. SIU is like we've never seen it before. IA is like we've never seen it before. The entire department is elevated way
Well,
like
Lewis is nice. Lewis has been a great chief for the PPD. But like, how did you pick Yomo? How did you pick Yomo as the superintendent of RPS, Ridgeway Park Service? Obviously we had was it Dominic that was in charge of RPS?
yes.
Yeah, we had Dominic resign. He went over to state police. How did you pick Yomo? What was your thought process behind that, and how was she chosen?
Well, in terms of Yomo, I spoke with Dom a lot when he was getting ready to resign. We talked about possible candidates, people that he'd be giving his recommendation to in terms of picks for the next, to be the next superintendent. Among those names was Yomo. I spoke to Yomo, not only in game but over DMs. Uh, we talked about various amount of topics from what she wants to see from the parks moving forward, policies she'd implement, and just a bunch of different things that she would do differently with the department and how she would elevate the department.
So you
Uh,
did have some sort of like an interview process. It wasn't just like, let me pick this individual out of the crowd. You did actually vet them through and talk with them before you appointed them.
well, of course, because like I said before, it's not only my decision, but once I make a nomination or decide I'm going to go forward with something, I need to make sure that that person is 100% who I want and
Yeah.
who the county needs in that position. Because at the end of the day, I have to go back to the board and report to the board and tell them, you know, this is why I want this person and this is why this person should be passed.
So do you like argue that like how does that work within a board session? So you bring forward this nomination. We nominate, Joe Blow off the street. How would that move forward within a board session? Do you discuss why they're relevant, why they're capable, or is it just simply up to vote?
Nope, we definitely discuss it, but it's not something that's usually discussed on the floor. It's something that's usually discussed prior to the nomination. Almost always speak to the board before making a nomination, especially nominations that are big and hold weight within the county. So yes, Yomo's nomination, that was something that was spoken about before the nomination was even put out, and before I even told Yomo that I'd be nominating her because I need to speak with the board, get their opinions, and get some of their questions answered, if any.
Do you think it's important that that kind of stuff gets brought forward in front of the public?
Well, it depends. Usually, if there is a disagreement between the board on a nomination, then that's when there'll be sort of a debate on the floor because that's really when it counts. There's
Yeah.
no need to really debate on the floor when everybody agrees that this person would be great for the position. It's kind of like, this is up for vote. And then, if somebody wants to debate it, it's kind of like not kind of useless, but it's just redundant because everybody's already knows that they want to put that person forward and that they want that person in that position and that they've already expressed to that person that, hey, I want you in this position, you're gonna do great.
So these people that you pick are normally influential individuals within, said department. So if we're, let's just talk future. We're appointing a fire chief. You will likely be over the fire department, picking who the new chief is, that sort of thing. Um, it's going to be somebody that's influential, has some experience within that. There won't be much debate needed within the board floor, correct?
Uh, it all depends, man. I can't think what the board members are thinking. All I can say is that I hope for the best and have some pretty cool conversations with board's members, and we usually get along quite well. So, I mean, for the most part, it's all up in the air. As you know, developer oversight always gets uh first choice when it
That's
comes to
right.
temporary appointments and term appointments. Mr. Squarehead dude is a little bit different, but yes, everybody who's appointed to a position is usually there for about a month, and then that whole term thing comes into place, whether I want to, put somebody else in, that
That's
whole,
right.
yes, that comes into play then. But uh like I said before, I don't usually look to appoint people to lead a department that are outside of a given department.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So when can we, likely this whole thing is going to be, resulting in Yomo losing her position as the parks superintendent. So let's hypothetically say that Yomo loses her position. When can we expect a new superintendent to come in place? Is that going to be something that is, left up to the chain of command? We're just going to fill laterally in a line, or is that something that you're going to have to appoint?
Currently, I has minions. He's acting superintendent of the park service because currently Yomo's on administrative leave. As for how I uh do my whole decision when somebody decides to resign or when a department head is outgoing, it's usually yes, the deputy uh takes place until I can decide and until the county board can agree on a decision with me to, pick the next chief, superintendent, major general. You get the point.
Okay. So I mean, so basically, time will only tell how long it's necessary to bring forward a new superintendent permanently. Of course, we can throw in interims as long as it is needed. Um, but we are looking for permanent replacements. Somebody that's going to come in. It's not going to be an interim parks superintendent. It's going to be somebody that's going to stay for a while. That's going to take some time, right?
You never know.
Yeah, time will tell. We'll have to see. It is a very fluid situation right now. That's not even to say Yomo might retain that position. The beautiful thing about justice and law is that it's innocent until proven guilty. So we might find out through all of these court proceedings that Yomo is actually innocent, and we'll find that out through time.
Am I supposed to like answer? He made a statement.
You can reply back to it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right. Well, I would like to thank you for your time today, Matrix. This has been a lovely interview, and I certainly hope that your hair doesn't turn gray by the end of this term. But I'd like to ask you not to leave just yet because after this break, we will go ahead and go head to head in a trivia contest against Tom Donovan Smith. And for our viewers out there, just hang tight. We'll be right back after this short commercial break, and we'll bring Tom Donovan Smith onto the stage, and we'll let them go head to head.
Shadow is ready, bro.
The Ridgeway County Transit Authority will be hosting a civilian job fair on July 10th at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Palmer International Airport. Weapons will not be allowed. Keep an eye on the RCTA Discord for more updates on this event.
Welcome back from that short break. We are here with Matrix OC and Tom Donovan Smith, who will be going head to head in a friendly trivia competition. The rules are simple. I will give you both 5 seconds to respond when I ask the question. After 5 seconds, I'll ask you both for your answers. Most of the questions are brain teasers and riddles, so think hard but fast. You both understand?
Yes.
Yep.
All right, great. We will begin with the first question. So, what is always in front of you but can't be seen? Go ahead and answer. Matrix, what's your answer? What is in front of you but can't be seen?
Always in front of you, but can't be seen.
Yes.
This is an interesting one.
Something. Go ahead and you gotta answer. Throw out something.
How much time do I get?
Now. This is it. This is it.
Something that's always in front of me I can't see. My nose.
All right, and Tom, what's your answer?
Your affliction?
No, it is the future.
Oh,
Oh
what?
All right.
gosh.
So what is hairy on the outside but soft and wet on the inside, and whose word starts with the letter C and ends with a T? Matrix.
This is for Nusa. So can't be what I'm thinking of. So can you
What's
ask the first question again?
yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. What is hairy on the outside but soft and wet on the inside, and it starts with the letter C and ends with a T?
Mm,
5.
coconut, coconut, coconut.
Okay. And well, I guess that ends that. It was coconut.
I'm
My
lit.
thoughts exactly.
I'm lit.
I'm
I'm
sure
lit.
it was Tom.
I'm lit.
All right. How many bones are there in the human body?
Really?
The answer is 206, 205, 201, and 209. 206, 205, 201, 209. Matrix, what's your answer?
I'm gonna go with 206.
All right. And Tom?
What was it? 206, 209. I'm gonna go with 206.
You're giving him
Yeah,
enough time to
it
look
was
up the answer,
206,
fam. It's
205,
illegal.
201, and 209.
Yeah, I'll go with 206.
All right. So you both got that one. It was 206. All right. So what is a. Let me see. What can you break even if you never pick it up or touch?
The wind.
Your heart.
It was a promise. You can break a promise even if you never pick it up or touch it. All right, next one. And we're going to start off with I have branches but no fruit, trunk, or leaves. What am I? Both of you at the same time. In five, four, three, two, one,
A
go.
bank.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it was a bank. Jesus, man,
I'm
that was
lit,
good.
bro.
All right.
I'm lit, bro.
Matrix Ock for the win. All right.
Yeah, Aki
How
way.
many blue stripes are there on the US flag? There's 6,
Oh
7,
hell no.
13, or 0. And you have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
13.
13.
All right, both of you got that one.
He
New
just followed
Zealander
me.
got it right.
He just followed he just followed up from the stupid
Oh,
Aussie.
yeah.
He's not an Aussie, he's like a British Aussie mix.
I'm from New
Uh
Zealand.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
What a
you're a
lie.
hybrid. You're a mutt. All right. What's a four-letter word that ends in K and means the same as intercourse?
What? He said it starts with K and what?
And it means the same as intercourse. Any idea? Three,
Go with
two,
come on,
one.
gonna go with Kitty.
Oh,
No, Tom got that one actually. Yeah, it was talk. Yeah,
yeah, my
so
dad
talk
told
and
me that one.
intercourse, basically the same thing.
It starts with a K?
Starts with a
Ends with K.
ends with a K. Yeah, it means the same as intercourse.
That is illegal.
What can you catch but not throw? Five, four, three, two, one.
Old.
Tom?
I would have said the same, but I was a bit late.
Whatever. Oh, you're full of
Such a
crap. Yeah,
lie. That is such a lie.
Matrix Ock got the win. It's a cold.
On top, bro. Just do
All right.
everything the Aki way.
So there's a 3-second cooldown or countdown. I'm sorry. On this one, how many letters are in Squarehead Dude's name? Three,
Oh my
two,
god.
one.
13.
14.
Tom was right, dude. All right, it was 14. Holy crap. All right.
Fuck
Yeah, bro.
yeah.
He be stalking
And
Squarehead. Yeah.
lastly, we have what year did Paul JKL create his Roblox account? You have 2006, 2007, 2008, or 2009. Five, four, three, two, one.
I'm gonna have to go with
2009.
2008.
Matrix Ox got that one. It's
Fuck.
2008. All
I'm
right.
built
So that's
different.
all the time we have for today. Thank you both for coming on the show today and giving us your time. To the
Oh yeah.
viewers at home, thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.
It was wonderful whipping Tom.
And before we fully finish, we had an unexpected visitor stop by the studio. Here next to me is the district attorney site owner. So, site owner, I'd like to welcome you to the Ridge. This has been a long awaited interview, and we are glad to have you here.
Mhm,
So, we brought you onto the show to talk about the
mhm,
recent events that have occurred within the past week,
yeah,
so-called the Independence event.
yeah.
So I have a few questions to ask you. We're starting off with, how does the DA's office plan to move forward? We've had a couple of releases actually from both the county executive and the DA's office, as well as SIO. How do you plan to move forward?
So what's going to be happening is throughout the week, a bunch of paperwork is going to get done. We're going to start concluding and closing everything and, entering in our final disposals. The final damage assessment will be calculated tonight, and that will get sent out to all responsible parties throughout the week.
So
As
how many people actually responded to that form? You've released that in both your Discord server as well as the main Ridgeway Discord server. Have we
Let me go
seen a
ahead and
good
take a
response?
gander here.
So that
Problem
for
with
people
the
that aren't aware, that form basically it's a compensation for any damages that might have occurred during the event. So, there were cars that were blown up, people that were damaged and whatnot. So this is the DA's office attempting to reconcile for some of those damages that have
Mhm,
occurred.
yeah. Um, so one of the big things about this here is we've seen a bit of fraud with in this form, and of course we are
Yeah.
applying each claim with a lot of scrutiny, um, and trying to figure out where, who and what went wrong, um, and just figuring out where we want to make claims and how to levy those claims, and making all monetary amounts available in that. And so one of the nerdiest things that I can go about with this restitution form thingy, um, is that it's a really good thing for the individual Park Service people involved to get this stuff signed and done and out of the way. Because what it's going to do is we're going to then, it'll basically allow the district attorney's office to settle any civil liabilities they have automatically and on their behalf. So in the calculated costs that we send out to people, it will not only cover all of the punitive stuff for the criminal action, but also the civil stuff as well. And so they don't have to worry about going to court or finding a lawyer if a person wishes to sue them. And if it ever does go to court, then we would step in, we would protect them, we would settle and ensure all of that stuff remains correct and right. But with these parks people, all they have to do is just say they will get the money paid, and then just like that, they are absolved of both criminal and civil liability because we are basically instantly and automatically settling that claim, um, with the person who has the damage assessed. From the
So
point of damages, most were not logged or filed through the restitution form, and so we will probably allowing people to claim what we have already logged for a while. What were you gonna say?
so the intent behind this restitution is to keep it out of court, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Um so with that, we have the restitution. They're going to get paid back, all the victims. How is this money getting brought forward? Who is restituting? Who's paying for the damages incurred?
So we last night, um, my deputy and I, Conjman, we went through all of the current assessment. We went through the SIO assessment, and then we went and created our own assessment. And then, of course, we went through and looked over what people have claimed, and we're kind of starting to compare those. So initially, we had each death weigh in quite a bit, and so we're probably going to be lowering the punitive multiplier on that, and so the fines may go down, just so then we can ensure that it's in a payable state for the individual RPS involved, because some of them it is a bit hard. If we send out what we had right now, it would be a bit hard for them to pay. The other thing is that under the current set of damages and under the current payment schedule that we have had set up, that included Tom Donovan taking 30% of the damages. And this was before I read his interrogation report. And so we thought that we were only going to stick him with a fine and then call it a day. Um, Obviously, I then read his interrogation report and started relooking at everything, and then obviously that changed.
Yeah.
And because we are pursuing criminal action against him, we are going to put down that set of money as basically unrecoverable. And so when that set of money is unrecoverable, then you have to figure out who the heck it shifts onto. And so do we shift that, outstanding balance onto the individual parks people, or do we shift out that outstanding balance on Yomo? And so if we shift on Tom Donovan's dues, Yoma would have to pay somewhere around like 27,000 um, in cash, and so that's not legible.
Yeah.
So what my deputy and I are going to do is we're going to go back to the drawing board, take a relook. We're going to take Tom Donovan out of the damages equation. We'll probably be able to get restitution in court if needed, but we're going to take him out of the damages equation, and we're going to only look with Yamatsu bearing her brunt. And so with
Well,
Yamatsu's
so
main, go ahead.
well, let's say okay, so I'm a park ranger. Just bare minimum, I'm at the very bottom of the chain. Yamatsu told me to, go and blow up PPD. I destroyed a PPD car, killed a PPD officer. Would I be, obligated to pay any damages towards the officer that I killed?
Yeah.
Okay, so you
So
do plan on holding.
it'll be drastically lowered from what you would normally have to pay, because a good chunk of that is getting shifted onto Yomo.
Okay,
So a percentage amount, a very large percentage amount, gets shifted from each and every individual damage, and it gets shifted and then put onto Yomo. So, and we came to that by figuring out how it's the calculus of negligence, and we went through all of that and trying to figure that out, and you know doing the math in the law, so to speak, and figuring out where do we put restitution and what accounts that we put it in. And so yeah, I had to play accountant last night, and I'll probably have to play accountant again tonight. So
I think it's a really important that I think with this event, from what I've heard, there was a lot of citizens that were involved, against their will. They may have
yeah.
heard about the event, came on game, looked at it, and ended up getting their car blown up, gotten killed, whatever. I think it's important that they're getting compensated for their
Yep.
losses with that. So I think that
Hmm.
was a smart move by the DA and the county government to actually offer this
Hmm.
method up. I
Yeah.
think that's nice. As a citizen, if I was out there and I got my car blown up, I would like to see something come out of that. So smart move.
Yep.
Um, so we've kind of covered my next question. What are the plans for the rest of RPS? So what we're going to see, from what I understand, is some sort of restitution in a small amount from the rangers that were involved.
Yep.
Obviously, Yoma will take accountability as the figurehead for the park service, but we'll also hold those involved in a lesser accountable.
Yep.
So my next question moves on to how will we see in-game proceedings take place, and will we see them take place within
um
court?
so what's happening right now in relation to Tom Donovan Smith? So after the press conference, because like I said, we were not fully, it was a very quick, we just got the report in, let's find some charges. Okay, this is what makes sense. Um, and let's, send them through type of thing. And so it was
Yeah.
a very short notice thing. And so a lot of that's going to get revisited during my meeting with my deputy tonight. Um, we don't know if we're going to increase them or we're going to decrease them yet.
So the charges aren't concrete right now. It's not
Concrete,
written in
no.
stone. It's subject
They
to
haven't
change.
been filed yet, no.
Okay.
Once they're filed, that's when it's all written in stone and it'll get sent into the court, and then the pretrial process will then begin.
So we haven't seen any charges filed
Nope.
through our court system.
Nope.
Do we have any kind of like time frame on those being filed?
So in order for all of this stuff to get sent through and processed, we'd have to get a criminal information done, and it requires also a very lengthy affidavit to be written.
Yeah.
So this
Will
criminal
that
information,
will that be filed through SIO as well, the one that was handling the
yeah,
main
they're the ones
investigation?
writing it. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're the ones who are writing the criminal information, um, and those will have all of the final charges listed on it. That'll get sent to the court. Um, Court would then go through it. They would take a look at it and ensure that number one, each and every single charge on there has probable cause. So if the judge believes that the charge does not have probable cause, then the charge is effectively thrown out.
Okay.
Um, and so judge finds that there's probable cause, then the criminal proceedings start. And once we have those findings of probable cause, and once we get locked in and charges are actually filed and taken up through the pretrial proceedings, then we would start really announcing that to the world that yes, he's going to trial for X, Y, and Z.
So
So
we don't have any really concrete, you can't say like Thursday, we'll have some sort of plan for this. It is very fluid as it stands right now
very
on
fluid. We'll
when
try and have something tomorrow and try and file something tomorrow, and hopefully we can get a judge
tomorrow
um,
being what day, just for the record.
Wednesday,
Okay.
and
Um,
hopefully we can have a judge get everything processed through.
okay. Well, so this was originally, from what I've heard, this was originally intended as, a fun event. We wanted to bring some live to Ridgeway, offer some of our government employees the chance to let loose and sort of have fun on the game. How do you think this will impact future events that are planned in a similar manner?
Just do them legally.
What do you
I
mean
think
by
that
that?
just do them legally. Like we have live fires, and those are legally allowed. And those are very, strictly legally regulated to prevent civilian casualties and to prevent civilians from getting involved in the mix. And to ensure that if you are going to do and announce a free for all and, an event where society breaks down and everyone shoots each other, um, then you have really good reasoning and you have backup of developer oversight announcing it to everyone.
That's right. Well,
So
so
go ahead.
how do you feel about, so there was some confusion about, DO, meaning developer oversight, authorizing this event. How could that be prevented in the future? It was very confusing. Some people had been under the assumption that developer oversight had approved. Some it was a very confusing event. Everybody wasn't brought into the plan. How can that be prevented in the future?
By doing what we're doing right now, which is holding the people who fail to have due diligence and act negligently and hold them accountable for that.
You think just holding them accountable will be enough, or should we have some sort of policy
I
in
don't think
place?
I don't think there's a need to make a law or something like that. I think it's just if you want to organize a free for all and you think that developer oversight is on your side with this, then you better be able to make that assertion with your life. So,
I think, a lot of what this boils down to is a sort of reckless act. I think it was very thrown together at the last minute. And I've mentioned this with other interviews as well. It was very careless, reckless, and done last minute, thrown together, if you will, and kind of with a disregard for any sort of
yep,
planning, necessary precautions, that sort of thing. I
yep,
think, as it's written right now, there's a lot of process that you need to go through to order a live fire, and I don't think none of that was
yep.
done with the Independence event, or as it's dubbed. So I think we're fine on the legal side. I just think that we need to make sure that everybody that's wanting to issue a live fire is following through all of those
Yeah,
processes that we have listed.
yep. And so far, we have not gotten any complaints in the DA's office about a live fire. We have not gotten one complaint or even a person whining in a chat about a live fire. So everything has been going very smoothly with those, and so we have no intent. Like, there's no reason to be concerned about that.
Yeah. Well, so that brings up the final question. How does the DA's office plan on remaining transparent during the final moments of the ongoing investigations and proceedings? I
Well,
think this is a huge topic for the public. This is probably one of the largest issues that we've had within Ridgeway County. It's broad. Well, how many did you get during your stage? It was like 200 something,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it brought a lot of attention onto the government, onto the different departments, and specifically onto the DA's office. How do you plan on moving forward from this event with transparency?
So we, of course, after the Independence Day event, you may have seen this, you may have not seen this, but the district attorney's office created and built up its public affairs team, which are a dedicated group of people to inform the public about what is going on. And so they will be very active in giving out statements and information about the Tom Donovan's trial. Um, they will be very active in giving statements about how the resolution of the Matsu stuff is going, at least from a legal regard. Um, as well as all the other legal matters that we deal with. Like, we have a termination case that's in the appeals court right now that is being deliberated, and an opinion is about to come out soon. And so, just other things like that
Can
we
I
have
ask
going
about
on.
that? What is the termination case regarding?
Um, yeah. So it's about Louis Medvedeva terminated Tom Skapetsky, and there's a lot of drama and a lot of stuff going involved in that. And it's it's one of those things. I believe I talked with you in private about Shadow, where if you fire someone just the wrong way and they feel that they want to sue you, then all of a sudden we're now having to write 15-page briefs as to why
That's
they should
right.
not be reinstated. And so it's just it was in reference to that case in particular, and so it's just a lot of work. Um, in
Well, I
terms of
think.
general, go ahead.
Well, I think it's important. I think, do we have that in fair employment law yet? Where
Yep, that's in.
departments? Yeah. I think it's important that all of our departments remember that, it means a lot to not only hold a LETC certification, but to also hold a position with a department.
Hmm.
For somebody to lose that, you
Yeah,
really have to take a step back as a investigator and realize, the time
you
and
have to
effort that
connect
it
the
took.
human to it, and so
Exactly.
yeah,
It
yeah,
we have as investigators, we have to take a step back and remember, well, how long did this person spend as a Let's See candidate working towards their certification? And then within the application department for application portion for a department, how long did it take them to apply, to go through the training and stuff like that? And we really have to consider all the time and effort they've put in before we make these rash decisions to throw them out of the department because they've
yep,
done one thing wrong.
yep.
It's
So
a complicated decision to make, and we really have to spend some time on it before we throw somebody out.
yep, it's a lot of stuff going on with those. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Um,
I mean, how would I'm kind of bringing it back,
it's fine.
drawing it in, reeling it in. How can some individual contact the DA's office regarding these investigations and proceedings with, Tom Donovan Smith or Yomo? You mentioned that citizens can contact the DA, but how do they contact the DA's office?
So they can get in contact with an ADA, who are like all of my ADAs are. I keep them informed and up to date on absolutely everything that's happening, case wise and everything else.
So
And
what is
so
an ADA for the people that aren't aware?
they're an assistant district attorney, and they're the ones who actually prosecute the cases that we send out.
Okay.
Um, my ADAs, it's a very closely tight knit group, and they all know what the heck is happening. And I tell them everything. So if they have any questions or they want to know any information about the Yomo case or the Tom Donovan Smith stuff, they can be sure to ask. In the
So
coming days,
a simple DM will do.
yeah.
Like if I want to find out more information about this case, I can just DM an ADA.
Hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Do you have any plans to formalize that contact process through a form or anything like that, or like a
Yeah. It's
request
just
for
kind of
information?
forms are stupid. We have a tip form. That's good enough of forms that I need.
That's right.
So,
As long as your ADAs are receptive to DMs, they're responding. I think a lot of an issue we find with any sort of bureaucratic thing is some of our, leadership, ignored DMs, kind of toss them off to the side. So as long as your ADAs are receptive to DMs,
well,
actually responding and
yeah.
listening to the citizens, I think that's all that matters.
One thing that's up with me is that, like, I just whenever I look through and I wake up in the morning or before I go to bed over the night, I just scroll through my DMs. I don't even read them, or well, I read them, I just don't reply to them, and then I either go up to what I'm doing next, and then I, fuck off. Like I've done that to everyone's DMs, including people like Square. So it's just it's yeah.
I'd say, as long I try as sheriff, I try my best to respond to every DM I get, but obviously, there's sometimes, some big event happens and it is physically impossible to respond to every single request that happen or every single DM that happens. You can't respond to everything. As
Well,
long
and
as everything is read, I think that is what is important. If somebody brings a concern to you,
mhm,
you read it. That's
yeah.
all that matters. A response can come later through some formal form.
Well,
I
so I am very clean about my Discord. I do not like I read every single DM and I read every single mention. And so I'm very, very clean about my Discord stuff. And I try to address as much as I can. And so like I've helped a lot of people out. I've looked into a lot of things for people when they've just mentioned me in the Ridgeway Discord chat about something. And so it's just not a hard thing. But when it comes to getting information about both of these cases, just contact an ADA and they can give you a much more personalized and response, and you can really probe them for more information and ask them about stuff.
Perfect. I think transparency from every party involved within this entire situation, from the government perspective and those that are being accused of what's ongoing. I think it's important that everybody involved is as transparent and open and receptive to comments, questions, concerns as possible. I think that is what
No,
matters, more
that's
so
why
than anything else.
that's why I made a very major push for the SIO investigation report to be released to the public as soon as humanly possible. So people can actually read that, make their decisions, and look upon the evidence, the testimony, and all of that stuff, and you know, make some decisions for themselves. So then they don't have to, you know, have it be my word against Tom's word until we get a criminal conviction. And so they
That's
can
right.
make it up. They can read the evidence themselves, and they can come up to their own conclusions.
I think that's all that matters.
Mhm.
Transparency is the biggest thing moving
Yeah.
forward. People want answers. People want some sort of background to what's going on. It's very clouded up in this whole bureaucratic process. So I think we've done a good job so far about maintaining transparency, keeping the public involved, and I think that's the
Yep.
most important thing moving forward.
Yep.
So with that, site owner, I would like to thank you for your time. And for those watching at home, I will see you later on the next episode of The Ridge. Thank you guys for tuning in and hope to see you soon.